I don't know what to say and how to go about it, but I'm new to this area. My name's Warren O'Connell. We moved up here 2017. We're from the city of Philadelphia. I guess my encounters, I was raised Catholic. It got to be so hard on the family, we had to move. My younger brother blew himself up at 7 years old, put a match in the gas tank of an antique truck, blew him 100 feet through a chain link fence. I was there. I went through the flames with my shirt. My shirt and shorts caught fire. That was about it. He survived after 9 years in the hospital. The ICU in Philadelphia, St. Christopher's, lamed the floor after him because he was there so long. They had to peel him off the ground. It would be like a chicken. When you grab a chicken, the meat just came off. Anyway, with that being said, he survived. He's a father, 2 children. He's married. He moved on in life. I am that middle guy, one of 5. So I had a lot of resentment from my family. They hated the fact of how I did things. I spoke the way I spoke. I told you the way it was. I didn't sugarcoat anything. If you didn't like it, it is what it is. I didn't need friends. I was my own person. I did my own thing. I'm not a good guy. I'm not going to portray to be a good guy. I was a bad guy. And I served my time for that. Let's put it that way. And I'm not one of them guys that go to jail to find Jesus. Absolutely not. In 1991, I was in a motorcycle accident. I broadsided a tractor trailer at 90 miles an hour. I hit it face first. I had no helmet. I was the last fatality in Philadelphia to have the helmet law passed in 91. I died 3 times. I was in a coma 29 days. Came out of the coma. I had a steel rod in my right femur. Had surgical damage done. I had my brain swelled like this. So if anybody knows the movie The Elephant Man, that's exactly what I look like. We have pictures of it. My face was blown out like this. When I came out of the coma, I thought people were basically touching me that weren't supposed to touch me. I had a mindset of a 5-year-old. I had to learn how to read, write, talk, walk, the whole 9 yards all over again. I was able to overcome that, able to do what I had to do. I walked out of the hospital. Well, I actually rolled out of the hospital in a wheelchair. I wasn't supposed to leave, but I left. I had people that just basically took me home. I actually tried to get in someone's Jeep that I thought was my Jeep. Those people were ready to whoop my behind because I was in their property. They drove me where I needed to go. My mother and father almost had a heart attack when they see me. And ever since then, me and my grandmother, who's up in heaven now, we used to joke around. She used to tell me, you're like a cow with 9 lives. God's not ready for you yet. He's got more and bigger things for you to do down here. So I was able to make it home in time to be there for my son who was born in 91. The relationship with me and his mother didn't go long. That was her fault, not mine. So I tried to get him into church. I figured that was the best thing because I knew what was in store that was coming through. A 5-year custody battle. Hundreds of thousands of dollars later, I won full physical legal custody of him in 1995, and it was unheard of for a father to take custody of a child from its mother. I was the first one to do it in Philadelphia, but not the last. I joined an organization called FACE, Fathers and Children Equality. A bunch of lawyers, paralegals, retired DAs, judges, giving advice to parents, fathers, to let them know you count too. The mother didn't just make the child, it took 2. So with that being said, I took my son to church. We start going to church. He liked it, he enjoyed it. It wasn't something that his mother liked to do when she would get him. But when I went into court and we showed everything, I showed my son the way life was. I won that custody. His mother was awarded custody, partial custody, visitation only, 1 day a week. That was it. That was her doing, not my doing, because the courts ruled in my favor. With that being said, I kept going to church. Okay, so I knew that a man died on the cross for my sins, but I knew that somehow, some way, my grandmother was right. Maybe they're not ready for me. We used to laugh and joke about it all the time. And my thing is doing good deeds. I've done good deeds throughout my whole life. And I believe that those good deeds paid off. I've helped people cross the street with groceries. I bought groceries for people. I paid rent for people who couldn't afford to pay rent. You know, I wasn't no millionaire big shot. I was just a guy getting by. I did what I did. I had great jobs, but I went to church all the time. The difference between my church, which was actually St. Pius when we moved up here, is they constantly talk, which is fine, they preach. But the thing is like what Pete does. St. Pius does not do that. Pete comes down and lets himself be known. The pastor of St. Pius doesn't do what Pete does. Doesn't visit homes. I don't know exactly how he does it. We went there for years. Pete came to my home. I'm not as Pete thinks, but I am, you know, I don't believe in people trying to sell a church. You know what I mean? To sell things from the church. No, if you want to go, you'll go. So Pete came. It's not that I didn't want to hear what he had to say. I just had a lot to do. Like I said, we moved up here. We bought the old Musser property. If anybody knows it, it used to be a cabinetry company. The garage is what I wanted, not so much the house. I'm a car guy. I collect 82 to 92 Camaro and Trans Ams. The ones I have, I fix. I put together and I keep. My wife said to me it was a joke. We looked for a house for almost 2 years. My stepson will tell you. We were starting to move out of Philadelphia because I seen the writing on the wall. The school start going down. The church wasn't right around the corner. So the church wasn't exactly, you know, a bad church. They were good people. They were great people. They had a daycare, after school program, the whole 9 yards. It's just when you see the writing on the wall, you know it's time to go. My wife tried to stop the sale of the house 3 different times by not paying bills, not realizing the house is my name. It's my house. Can't stop it. Settlement's just going to pay everything off. She wasn't aware of that because she never owned a home. My house sold in less than a week. The same people that came, the people who bought my house were the same people who tried to buy the house 10 minutes before I bought it. They tried to buy it after I bought it. They've seen the renovations I did to the home. It was a bakery for 4 generations. I turned it into a home. My wife is very Catholic. Nicholas will tell you. Her mother, very Catholic. The church was right around the corner from them as well. Me and her got together. I wasn't even supposed to meet her, I guess. I just happened to be at a friend's house. She came. I seen her. I asked my friend who that was, and she was telling me that was Mary. I'm like, that's Mary. The only Mary I knew was a heavy-set girl cutting grass with a weed whacker in her backyard at mom's house. Sure enough, that was Mary. Me and her are the opposite of everything. So we decided, hey, try it. We've been now married for 15, 16 years. So the trying worked. She's the one that actually brought me more and more to church than anything. Because I would go to church. I guess I wouldn't put a lot of effort into it. I believe that if God saved me 3 times, then maybe I'm here for a reason, maybe I'm not. I had another accident at my own home here, but the other accident that almost killed me was a 3,000-pound machine that fell on my groin. Fell off a forklift. The owner lifted up into the air. It was only off the floor this high because I put it this high in the air. We ran it over, put it somewhere. It's what we call a baby press. We made additives for gasoline for BP Mobile, Sunoco, and Amoco. So my boss is a world-renowned chemist, and I became a laborer. He gave me a shot at a job. After that accident, before that accident, I was made vice president. The accident occurred. The doctor said to me after waking up, what would have you done if you woke up and you lost your leg? Life goes on. I'm not going to be depressed about it. So I had more plate, I had more steel, titanium in my left leg. So basically, I can't go through a metal detector because I had so much metal in my body. So I have an excuse card that I show everybody for medical. With that being said, I knew that Jesus was on my side. Somebody was over watching me because I shouldn't have been here. I had a monster truck. That was the last accident I had, was up here. I had the monster truck sold to a big company down, I believe it was in Mifflintown. I was out driving the truck. I had deers come down off the R embankment. Now where I live, if anybody knows Flint Valley Road, we don't have a neighbor. Our neighbor's like 2.5 football fields that way, and then that way 2.5 football fields. Nobody in front of us but a mountain, nobody behind us because we own what's behind us. They hit the tire of the truck. As I said, it's a monster truck, so the tires were about this big. Threw me through the door. The door didn't open. My body went through the door because the truck went that way. I was through the door. Wound up broken my ankle, my shin, and I hit my head and all and everything like that. It was taking the guy's center. So they said, you're one person, boy, that's got a lot of metal, and you shouldn't be here. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a reason. Getting back to Pete, he came down my driveway. Like I said, I don't believe in selling religion door to door, but I guess this area is totally different. When the neighbors talk to us, they introduce themselves, but that's about it. Everybody stays to themselves. I didn't know that. I'm not like that. Everybody I see, I introduce myself to, or I make a joke, like today. Say Father's Day, Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. I call it Happy Farters Day when I kid around with my kid. So that's what I do. So I joke with him, and I decided to speak here. I guess to tell you how I was. I was born in the 70s, so times were rough. Gas ration, food ration, everything. We went through all that. I'm a family of 5. As I said, I'm that middle guy here, so I had a lot of resentment from my family. The only one that never resented me was my grandmother. She was very proud of me because what I've lost, my family will never own. What I own, my family will never have. My mother, who I have not talked to in over 17 years, because when I took a vacation, and it wasn't a good vacation, when I made that phone call to her to keep an eye on my son, to watch my son, and that I would pay for whatever my son needed during my vacation. She said she wasn't raising another man's child. I said, okay. Then she had the gall to ask me for $10,000 for 2 air conditioning units. I told her, you need to get your ass a job. And I hung the phone up. I have not talked to her since. She tries to reach out. Just a few years ago, I tried to reach out, tried to, bring her back into our life because we have 4 kids, me and Mary, 2 boys, 2 girls, and we have a stepson. She has a stepson. So my son is 30-some years old, who lives in Bucks County. Nicholas is 20-some years old. I tried to allow my mother to move onto our property because where she lives, it's a war zone. And I absolutely mean it's a war zone. I offered her to sell her place put a trailer or, modular up at my place. You pay for everything. I said, you'll get enough money for your house. You pay for a well. You pay to have the electrical pole put there. You can live there till your dying day, rent free. But once you pass, whatever you're doing with that your trailer needs to be off my property within 24 hours. Because I'm not going to have my family try to come up and move in there and think that it's okay with me, like my brothers I don't talk to. I got 5 brothers. I stopped talking to one who I was very close to. It's a brother of mine who blew himself up. And he's not so much religious. He's more like an atheist. He's a conspiracy theorist. You try showing him the better parts of God, he doesn't want to hear it. So, well, you only made it because of one person. You didn't make it because yourself. You were too young. You were 7. So wherever his mindset's at, it's where it's at. Like I said, I'm not a good guy, but I'm also not a bad guy. I will reach out to help anybody. I will not hurt nobody. I don't believe in that. I gave that up. Gave all that stuff up once I went away. I had to pay the penalty for what I did because it did eventually catch up with me. But like I said, I wasn't a drug dealer, wasn't a murderer, wasn't a rapist, wasn't a child molester. But let me tell you, doing time in the penitentiaries, whether it's county, state, or federal, you better know how to fight. And one thing with me, I got a mouth, but I can back that mouth up. I boxed for 5.5 years in Philadelphia. So when I went away, the first thing you had to do was do what you had to do. I had to handle myself because people thought that I was sweet like that. I took out one of the biggest dudes there. And then they grew a lot of respect for me. I was the only white guy on the weight pile that could do pull-ups with one hand. And I was only 137 pounds. Now I'm 185. But I put all that past behind me because of that man right there. He came to my home. Like I said, I didn't believe in selling church door to door. And it's not that I didn't want to hear what he had to say. I just, in all reality, didn't want to be bothered at the moment. I was trying to get things under control at my house. Even though things were out of, under control, but I was doing something, and I hate being interrupted in the process of doing something. So I didn't give them bad words, maybe bad vibes, as far as my body language and everything to that nature. But as I said, this church does things totally different than churches that I've been in. And the Catholic diocese needs to change because they don't do what this church does. This church reaches out to people, literally comes around in time of need maybe. And this church has helped me and Mary. Now Mary still belongs to St. Pius because she teaches there. She teaches CCD. So with that, she goes there. The kids usually come to me. I tried to get the kids to come this morning. My daughters are sleeping. My boys are like, I'm not going to church. I'm like, all right, I guess it's no phone Sunday. So, they're saying, well, we did our chores. I don't care. I used to drive a truck. I drove a truck to where I was out 2-3 weeks at a time. And that had a lot of havoc on my wife. The boys just felt like doing what they wanted to do, especially my oldest. Wanted to test the waters. Well, guess what? Daddy told the people, hey, I need off on Father's Day. I have a church that I'm speaking out with. He said, I can't guarantee that because I'm not sure where you're going to be. And I'm like, okay, so what are you telling me? He said, I'm just telling you I can't guarantee that because I'm not sure where you're going to be. Well, I was just in South Dakota. The company's located in Minnesota. And I said, well, if you can't tell me where I'm going to be, I know where I'm going to be. He said, where's that? I said, I quit. I'm done. You can't let me have off Father's Day because you tell us to pick our own days we want off. Now, I've been out now for over a week, and I was out last time for 3 weeks prior to that. I can't stay out on the road having my kids disrespect my wife, and it's their mother. So when Daddy walked in, everything changed. They knew I was back. They didn't know how for how long, but they knew I came in a U-Haul. I was up. I had to drop the shipment, deliver the shipment. I took the truck back to the yard, cleaned the truck out, rented a U-Haul, told them exactly what they told me to tell them. Hey, you're just going to use it for around town. Okay, well, I was up, I don't know, probably 7, 8 hours prior to that. 17-hour drive nonstop from Minnesota to my house. I took that U-Haul van back. It had to be back by 2 o'clock the next day, so it was Wednesday, it was Thursday, I took it back. The lady looked at me and said, they don't rent them vans like that. I said, yeah, well, she said, you're going to have to hold on a minute, I got to deal with this customer. So she had the key. I went, adios, see you later. I walked out the door, got in the car, and left. U-Haul happened to send my old email, my wife's old email address, for $2,700 to drive that van from Minnesota to my house. Well, I'm going to call corporate, and I'm going to explain to corporate exactly what transpired, exactly what I was told by their own guy. So somebody might lose their job over that. It's not my fault. I did exactly what you told me to do. This is how you told me to do it. You put it in the system that way. I got it back by 2 o'clock. But it happened to go here to Pennsylvania. It didn't go back to Minnesota. You said to get it back by 2 o'clock at my location. So it was there. Getting back to Pete. Pete's one that actually shows people love. You don't get that from the Catholic Church. I ain't got nothing negative to say about the Catholic Church because that's how I was raised. But it just seems that they don't show what they preach in all reality. I mean, they explain the Bible to you. They talk about hymns and things of that nature, and that's the way I was raised. We were raised, and we went to a public school. But my public school teacher read a passage from that Bible every day, and that was in public school. And that was our elementary school. So that's what I've always constantly hear in my ear. But now, with the music that we hear, Minnesota, that's basically what they play, a lot of church music, a lot of church stations. They don't really have too many rock stations or classical stations. So that's what I heard pretty much on the way home. A guy named Tomlinson, I believe it is. Some of the songs that I heard on the radio are here, are played here. We actually sing the songs because I've been constantly hearing them. They're in my head. I just can't make them out right now at the moment because I guess standing here. You know how you have it on your mind but you forget it. But with Pete, things were different. I figured, you know what, let me give them a shot. Let me hear what they have to say. Let me see what they got, you know, what their church offers. It's not that their churches are going to overtake our church. Well, in me it did. Because I felt that the Catholic Church doesn't offer this more than this church does, and this is where I'm going to stay. My wife can stay at St. Pius. But eventually, the kids come here because they like this church. They don't like St. Pius. They want to come here, but their mother has to take them to church with her, which is understandable. So, whatever Pete has been trying to betray me of, I'm definitely not that person. I wasn't going to kill him. I wasn't going to kill him. I figured I'll let the man speak. I didn't know who it was. But, you know, when you move up somewhere and you have no, put it this way, when we moved, I took the shot. Didn't know nobody. Didn't care to know nobody. Okay, I figured if I can do 6 years in solitary, I can do the rest of my life living in the country with nobody around. Because that's how my grandmother had it. When Pete came down the driveway, we were told, prior to Pete, we were told by the state police, if anybody comes down your driveway, shoot first, ask questions later, and don't call us until the morning. They didn't want to be woken up. Okay, whatever. That sounds good for me. Pete came down with Debbie. No, I was outside, so that was good. I wasn't in the house. But So he came down, he said what he had to say, and I was like, okay. You know, it's not that I didn't believe what he was saying. I figured, okay, let's see what he offers. Came here, like I said, it's a whole new beginning. This church is one of the churches that actually reached out in time of need for me and my wife. Nobody else did. And even though that's not what we look for. We moved up here because I had to get away from the city. I didn't want to be too close to my family because every time you're close to family, phone rings or you get a text message. I need this, I need that. Nah, I'm good. I moved 2.5 hours from Philadelphia, 3 hours from New Jersey. That's where all my family's at, in New Jersey. They don't come up and see me. The only one that does is my aunt, who has an antique business, who has a store, several stores in Adamstown. She's the only one that'll come up to visit. My other family don't want to. It's too far of a ride. My son did, but he only came up to visit to bring my granddaughter because I went to Kentucky and picked up a trailer for him. A 35-foot trailer, got him into the same thing that I was doing in the beginning. And that, as I said, he only came up because I had picked his trailer up in Kentucky, had it taken off my trailer with Brian Cranes. I brought it back home. That's the only reason why he came up. Dad, I can't come all the way up there. It's 2.5 hours, and I don't have nothing dependable. Well, you had something dependable to come get that trailer, didn't you? So I'm like, okay, whatever. So, and I don't want to use the courts. One thing about me, even though, you know, people get different perspective of me, I worked for a lawyer for a while. I was a paralegal. So I did civil work. And I explained to my son, don't deny me my granddaughter, because if you want to go to court, you don't have what I have. I have a lot of friends in Philadelphia in the court system. Regardless if they're still there or they're retired. I have a paternal right to that child. And I will make you bring that child to me once a week if I choose to. But we didn't go down that road. We just left it alone. I have a lot of stuff at my house for her, so I was hoping to get to see her. But not today, probably, which is fine. But like I was saying, I can't ask for a better church. I can't ask for a better congregation, as they say. Because the people here actually care about everybody. They're not self-centered. And I think that's which I believe has to do with a lot of people at various churches. They only worry about themselves, which is fine. I don't ask anybody to worry about me, but I look after my elders. Even though my son says, Dad, you're 55 and you'll be in a nursing home soon. No, not me. So I'm just hoping that, you know, things change for us. You know, this is my last house. I've owned 3. This is number 3. I'm not moving again. I bought a house with a big enough garage. And Pete will tell you, I can make a house out of that garage as big as that garage is. And I don't feel like going nowhere. It suits my needs for what I need. And I don't think I'm going to find a house like that, or we're going to be able to purchase a house like that. The best time to buy a house is during a divorce. That's how I got the deal. It was a divorce. I made an offer. He came back with a counter offer. I made a second offer, and I told him, this is the final offer. After this, I'm walking. And they took my offer. So that's why we moved here. Moved here, we weren't welcomed very well with the school district. Selinsgrove School District doesn't like fathers or parents who stand up. I stood up to the school, and ever since then they didn't like me. And I told the police, you know, when they stopped me on their property, he said, driver's license and registration. I said, you're not even a cop, dude. Get out of my face. You're a rent-a-cop. Get out of my face. I said, I worked with law enforcement for over 15 years in Philadelphia. He said, get out of my face. I said, I know a lot of people. Well, school district, like I said, Selinsgrove does not like people that stand up and want to change things. Well, I told him, I know too many people. I also worked for the 45th and the 47th President of the United States. I did his inauguration. I was part of that inauguration in 2017 and just this year in D.C. People want to know, hey, well, how does a convicted felon get picked? I don't know. Figure it out. I was picked. I was picked twice. I went through a substantial background in Homeland Security. But as I said, my crime was white collar. Just didn't pay the government too much tax money. That's it. I don't believe in giving the government too much tax money. They get too much as it is. So with that being said, I don't know where else to go. I enjoy this church. I enjoy coming. I enjoy the people here. I have a good friend in Pete. I met Steve. I met you. I know that you're with the fire company. I don't know a lot of yous. The ones I do know, I know from here. I know him from when his company was going to fix my truck. But like I said, I could not keep staying out because even though I have my Bible that Steve gave me, autographed it and gave me one, church inside of a truck on a Sunday isn't the same as the congregation here. There is no congregation inside your truck but you. And, that's what I was missing. Also seemed the fact that I had to get back home to straighten out my household because my boys ain't going to take advantage of their mother, not while I'm not around. I'm going to be there. So I'm just basically now going to look for another job, which is not a big deal. I'll definitely find one. It's not hard, just take a little vacation, about a week. But other than that, I appreciate this congregation welcoming me, my family, my wife, even though she doesn't attend, she still belongs to St. Pius, to this congregation. Like I said, I just hope you just don't, think of, we don't want to bother with him. He told us too much. One, I'm an open book. I don't mind to tell people. I have nothing to hide. One, I put my faith in God because of the simple fact I lived a fast life. 21 years old, I figured, not a big deal. Guess what? 21 years old, that changed my life when I broadsided that tractor trailer. I was DOA 3 times. So now I'm like a cat. 9 lives, 3 down, 6 to go. I lost 2 when the 3,000-pound machine fell on me because I was a trauma 1 going into the hospital. So any nurses or doctors here, anybody knows about trauma 1? I was a trauma 1 going into a hospital in St. Mary's in Bucks County because of how that machine missed my manhood by millimeters. And it's a fact. It punctured me in my groin and in my left leg, but the pressure of the machine kept the blood together. The plates punctured it. I didn't lose no blood until the boss slid the machine forward just enough, slid me about 2 foot across the floor, picked the machine up. I jumped up and walked away. Nobody believed that I jumped up and walked away, but our warehouse, we had cameras in to stop the theft of any, because of the additives we made. We also turned around and made other chemicals, and we made other additives. But when I noticed my groin area shooting blood out, it was my left leg. So I just started filling the spots with my fingers. But I made it, I pulled it off. Like I said to you, my grandmother me and her used to kid about it all the time. They're not ready for you upstairs. You'll probably corrupt the angels. I'm like, well, I'll lead them the right way if they don't lead me the right way. And like I said, Pete and his wife, they showed us, me and my wife, exactly how much people care, because that's not how we were raised. We didn't, people watched people where I'm from in the city. Neighbors watched, every neighbor knew the neighbor's kids. Everybody knew. So everybody was able to pick the phone up. Hey, your kid's involved in this, your kid's doing that. You know what I mean? Everybody looked out for everybody. We move up here, nobody does that. Nobody likes that. That's what is crazy to me, because you would think that Selinsgrove School would appreciate somebody bringing information forward to them. Hey, about one of your students. Oh, no. They don't want to hear that. You get confronted. Because I had a speeder. A quick story. Speeder used to fly down our street all the time. I got 4 kids waiting for a bus. If that speeder loses control or decides to jump out because of a chipmunk or a squirrel and avoids that and hits one of my 4 kids standing there, the kid always did it just to beat the school bus. That's the reason why he sped every morning. So not unknown to me who the person was. I didn't know. I'm standing at the school dropping my little girl off for pre-K. One of the staff says, I hope it doesn't rain. I brought my son's Jeep. She's pointing to the parking lot. I said, that red Jeep right there? She's like, yeah. I need to talk to you for a moment when you get time. I tried to speak to her. I was told, you can't do that. So when I went back to speak to her, I figured, okay, maybe it was just something I couldn't do it during the morning hours. I tried to speak to her. They escorted me out, security. I said, okay. So I came the afternoon. The head of security, I forget his name. What was his name, Nick? Wolfberg. Wolfberg came to my van with 2 other officers, 2 other security people, I should say. And I wanted to step out of the van. He said to me, there's no need to get out of the van. I said, no, let me get out of the van, so I could talk. He's like, well, if you put your hands on, I said, let me tell you something. You put your hands on me, I'm taking all 3 of these out. I'll show you how quick it is. Wolfberg did not like any people going to any. That's not how you do things. So what he wanted me to do was to call our local police and have our state police try to do something. Well, I reached out to the police commissioner, the state police commissioner in Harrisburg, who I know. They had a trooper sit in my driveway for a few days, because my driveway was hidden by burning bushes. When the trooper left, the vehicle come flying down. The trooper left too early because he was told to leave early. Okay, whatever. So what I did is I wound up finding out who it was. I went to that house. The father wasn't happy because the Jeep was sitting in the driveway. The son was apparently in college. He said, my son couldn't have done it because he's been in college. I said, well, then your other kid's driving it flying down the road. I said, look, I'm just trying to be honest. If something happens to one of my kid, I'm going to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner all in one. I'm not playing. Y'all don't know me. I don't know you. I said, but I'm like a wildfire. You touch me, it's actually another word, but I won't get into it. You'll be burned. And so with Pete, my attitude's changed. I don't look at things that way no more. I go with life as it is. I go where life's going to take me. I read the Bible that Steve gives me. Steve gave me an autographed Bible, my own personal, so I keep that. I read that. And as I said, I'm not one of them ones to find God in jail, because it wasn't me. I actually found him long before that. I just kept him by my side, and I figured I'd get by this time. Not a big deal. But that's when I decided we moved, came up here, we met Pete. Ever since then, so we're good. I like this house of worship. I like the congregation. I like the people that are here, even though nobody knows me. Hopefully we all can get together one day at an event here. My wife doesn't like a lot of people. She likes to stay by herself. Pete will tell you. stays by herself. She doesn't like meeting people. She hates it every time I go somewhere I meet somebody. I joke with people. I tell old people or seniors in the shopping carts, the electric ones in the supermarket, slow down, you're going to get a ticket. You know, you're going too fast, you're going too slow. I just like to talk to different people, like to meet different people. And that's the way I am. I extend my hand to anybody. I'll help anybody. Anybody needs anything, I'm very knowledgeable of things. There ain't nothing I can't fix. There ain't nothing I can't do. So with that being said, I hope I didn't bore everybody. But they said, tell the truth, so that's the truth.